Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dragonmeet, the best London convention of the year. I am Paco Garcia, your host from the podcast, and
I am Dr. Mike Reddy.
Yes, that indeed is the face to the voice, which you have not seen before, not on video.
Have I owe you money?
Okay, let's not go into that one. Dragonmeet, as you know, happens every year, happens in London, is seriously the nicest role-playing game convention in the country at this moment. And although it's probably an injustice, but I like to call it mini Gen Con, because everything that goes on at Gen Con happens here at a much, much smaller scale.
Yes, it's my first Dragonmeet, and I think I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to have a very different feel to UK Games Expo because it's only a one-day event. Yes,
it is, and it is a lot more seminars focused, which we have recorded and you will be able to see. And some of the people coming to the seminars, I mean, we have proper celebrities.
Yeah, I mean, you for a start. But no, I'm really looking forward to the seminars. There's some really great people, not all of whom are as well known, but there's definitely people who have got something to say, and on a whole range of things, from fine detail of things like Glorantha and general issues about where the UK role-playing game industry is going in the future. Lots of, real swathe of different types of things, and that's just in the seminar session. There's also on the floor as well, lots of people. I'm looking forward to seeing Playtest UK and chatting to some of those new designers and developers who are willing to test people's games, even your games if you've got some.
Yeah, just indeed, and actually it's one of the good things about Dragonmeet. I've been coming for a few years now, and one of the great things about Dragonmeet is that it combines very nicely both the mainstream role-playing games. The Pathfinder Society is here, you have an awful lot of Call of Cthulhu games, as Deviant is the demoing quite a few of their board games, but there's also a very present and very, very, very relevant and very well respected indie community and indie number of people selling their games around here, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a chat to Sarah from Mindjammer fame as well.
Yes.
And I've obviously got Leisure Games here. I was helping them to set up this morning as my way to get in early so I didn't freeze. Thanks to Leisure Games for letting me help set up their shelves, because otherwise I'd have been like this icicle outside. I'm not sure I'd have come in. I'd have been just frozen, having arrived a little bit early, but without a coat, unfortunately. So that was thanks to them. I'm really looking forward to the day.
Yes. Yes. And without further ado, my friends, here's Dragonmeet.
We're here to talk about Glorantha, in particular about the guide to Glorantha and the current Kickstarter campaign that's funding this to make it into the most beautiful book about Glorantha ever produced.
My name's Nick Brooke. To my right,
David Scott. And I'm Colin Driver.
Colin is our map guru. Every beautiful map that's up there, and all the ones that are going up on the screen by and large, are by Colin, unless they're more pictures than maps, in which case somebody else did them. But that's okay. The serious mapping is all down to Colin. We don't have a script here. We're very happy to take questions, but we have a couple of slides we've spun together to kind of tell the story of the guide to Glorantha.
So we should just also point out that myself and Nick have been involved in the writing and some of the editing, and I've been involved in the editing as well.
And we've got the manuscript here. You can mug me for it later.
Jeff Richards can't be with us because he's on holiday.
But first of all, let me just check. I'd like to take the temperature of this audience. Anyone in this room not know what Glorantha is? Interesting, that's good. Anyone in this room think gaming books are better off without any art? That silly stuff takes up pages, could have had words on it? No? Good. They all couldn't find their way to the room. Probably they need a map to get here. Anyone not like maps? Maps are constraining, they limit your imagination, but you're better off just with broad sweeping script. Hey, this is good. I like this audience already. Yeah, let's dive in, Colin. We've got these John's. This is John Hodgson's beautiful cover for the Guide to Glorantha. In the middle, the big red triangle is Pero Finn, sacred mountain mother of all Anth. Up on the above in the sky is the top half bit, and you've got all Anth standing on a green thing. There's a dragon climbing up the mountain. You've got Yelm throned front and centre inside the sky dome, and above him, squatting over his head, rather like an Egyptian, is Dezatar, the god of the sky dome. Off to the right, we've got, that's Shargash, and the Red Moon goddess, actually, sitting on top of her thing. We've got the rune the wrong way around, but that'll be sorted out for the final version, and is already sorted out on the printed one up front. Down below, we have the Earth, and an Earth goddess sweeping in the womb of the Earth. Left and right we have the sea and some merfolk swimming around, and underneath is the underworld and some very hellacious stuff going on down there. So it's the whole of Glorantha wrapped up by runes and served up to you in one humongous volume. Next.
Does anybody here not know about the Kickstarter for Glorantha?
Oh, excellent.
2, excellent.
Oh, let's triage that further. Does anyone not know what a Kickstarter is? Okay. When you get home, type in kickstarter.com, or indeed just Kickstarter, like it's spelled there, and you'll find out. Kickstarter is a way of getting seed capital, getting funding for projects. Okay. So this started out with Moon Design Publications, who we don't work for, well, Colin does, as a slave labor. Moon Design wanted to bring out a bumper book of Glorantha, basically a bigger and better version of the old orange box set from the early 90s, late 80s. And they were going to do this anyway, and then they found out that in order to print it in a beautiful format, they need a bit more money up front than they thought that they'd ever needed for previous books. So rather than printing it as a weedy little 8.5 by 11 standard American size 400 or 500 page book, they wanted to do it as a 10-inch by 12-inch glorious coffee table book. And they worked out, well, what's that going to mean we need above and beyond what we've already got to produce it? They said, well, it's about $36,000 we'd be able to do that as the initial print run. So they put out the call on the internet and said, look, if you want to buy into this book, you can just give us some money, or you can give us money with obligations. For $50, you get the PDF of the manuscript, the PDF of the final product, or something like that. PDF of the final product. For $125, you'll get a hard copy of the final guide to Glorantha and the map supplement.
You also get the additional work that they're bringing out as a separate volume.
Yeah, the guide, these companion to guides, which is all the extra stuff. So anyway, it started out, and the idea was to see if they could raise, over the course of a 30-day funding campaign, enough money to bring out this book in the format they thought it deserved. They got that money on day one, and thereafter it's been a process of saying, well, what else can we do? One of the things they had was they had 8 beautiful full-colour plates by Jan Pospisil, a superb artist in the book. His colour work is the stuff up front there that you might have seen when he came in. They had 8 plates, that's all they could afford. So the initial stretch goals were, they said, well, if we get more than $40,000, we'll get more art by Jan. And if we get $50,000, we'll get even more art. So Jan can't be here today, he was here last year, but right now he's at home painting Praxians. This is a good thing. So we're going to have 16 full-colour plates in the style of the Osprey Men-at-Arms books, so groups of figures, distinctive, iconic people explaining who they are, what they're wearing, what they're up to, nice narrative to each of them, for all kinds of different parts of the globe. Lots of movies as well, excuse me, I say globe. Bad name. So anyway, go home, type in Kickstarter, have a look at what's available. For about $50 you can get a PDF of every finished product. For $125 you can get the printed books. Right now they're looking at producing 3 of them, which will be the guide, the atlas, which is a beautiful book of maps that Colin will be showing you a bit more of later, and also something called the companion, which is for all the extra stuff that has been funded and commissioned since that there isn't room for in the guide, like the detailed gazetteers of faraway parts of Glorantha that have never previously been written up, for example. So yeah, that's the Kickstarter. It's still in progress. It's about halfway through its run. You've got a couple of weeks if you want to join in. And about every day or two, they pass another stretch goal. We learn another part of the world that's going to be mapped in full detail, another part of the world that's going to be written up in comprehensive detail down to kind of every small city named with interesting paragraph of description, rather than this is a city in the land of whatever. That kind of stuff. And this. So yeah, Kickstarter's up and running.
I'm just going to take you through a little bit about the Argonagar map atlas and how we put it together. This shows some of Greg Stafford's original artwork. He's been putting together for, well, since the 60s.
Yeah.
And what Greg tends to do is make tracing paper and do various layers of maps, and we've discovered a whole host of maps that Greg created that they've never been used. So we started putting these together, and I've been probably working on this on and off for about 5 years now. And here you can see where we've put the left-hand map, the central Genitella, is all of Greg's lunar maps put together and then joined up to another super-sized Shadowlands map. And the one on the right is Frenella, so it's part of the west, and there are 2 or 3 for each of these. To give you an idea, this is what we've been working from.
When I visited Chaosium in the early 90s, these were pinned up above Greg's desk. Huge, great things covering the wall. They're what he works from when he's worked from when he was working on Glorantha. And up until now, we've had stuff like those kind of sketchy back-of-napkin things in the old orange box. We're now going to be able to have proper scientifically mapped, correct scale, correct joins, maps of the whole of the world.
And this is also somewhat of an archaeological process. Greg is kind of semi-retired. He had drawers and drawers of papers and bits and pieces that he'd been searching through. And even, must have been a couple of weeks ago, a new map was discovered of Prax that we'd never seen before, another overlay there. Yeah. And there are people out there that have these things that were given them as, you know, just one-off things, people who visited and stuff. People are still turning up with new bits and pieces of Glorantha that haven't been seen before by anybody. So the whole process is somewhat more complicated than people would realise.
But, thank you, David. So, this is where we started off. Sarta is the most commonly known part of Glorantha.
Was anyone here not born in Ireland?
King of Dragon Pass, obviously the game set here. I think the Red Moon, White Bear.
White Bear, Red Moon, White Bear, yeah.
That's
That's about the conquest of Sarta. Good game.
So this is when Moon Design started revisiting Glorantha. This is where they started off with the Sarta book, and there again I've got the cover on the right hand side there. Another lovely cover by John Hodgson, which is available from all good bookshops.
There's somewhere around here today if you want to go and say thank you, John.
We then carry on the next. Well, there was the Sarta Companion first of all, and then Paris Gateway to Adventure. So this is a map of Prax, and it's off to the side of what we did for Sarta. So what we were then doing is actually putting the maps together, and there's another lovely cover by Ken Christmas. So here's the most detailed map that Greg produced, all the maps. One of Sarta and one of Tarsh on the left-hand side. This is the one. These are the maps that we've used as the gospel maps, if you like. And then any other maps that come off of this are secondary, but these are the ones we used.
I think it's no secret that Greg's own RuneQuest games were usually centred in Sartar. And Sartar and Tarsh and Prax and those lands are the places in Glorantha that have been most played in. So as we're expanding out from there, we're defining things rigorously for the first time in the same consistent level of detail that you've seen in Sartar and Tarsh. So there are now, for the whole of Western and Central Genetella, everywhere is detailed down to any population centre above about 1,000 people.
That's correct.
We've named, it's marked on the map, population distributions are reasonable. There's a whole bunch of new places out in the West you've never heard of before, because we used to only hear about the big cities, and now we're filling in everything, describing it, detailing it. It's quite fun.
So to give you an idea of how we actually put these maps together, this is the Shadowlands map, close up with the lunar map and the Shadowlands map I pulled up earlier. And as you can see that there are contour lines there, there are hills and things which we have to put together. And we also have, this is another one of Greg's overlays, this is the lunar forests. So this is another thing we needed to add. These are all medium to heavy forests. There are other maps with different coloured greens, with different kinds of forests.
We've never had a published map showing the vegetation inside the lunar empire, unless you count the kind of the Moonbird map showing where they nuked elf forests.
So, this is an early, showing a quick evolution of the maps. This is an early version where we started putting all of Greg's contours in. And then we have descriptions of various places which tells us how high they are, what elevation they are, so we can then work things out from there. This was my first attempt at it, and the lower contour lines are actually wrong here because I wasn't aware that there were loads of pattern things in the lower regions. It shows you how much I know. So this is the revised version, this is more like it. And then this is where we start adding place names, the daughter roads and some of the forests. So this gives you an idea of how we build the maps up and what actually goes into them.
But I mean, the horrifying thing is the size of it. Is that one of the next ones?
Yeah, it's the next one after this. This is where we've actually got, I mean, you can see where some weights have been put on the western map here to hold it down. This takes us right through from the west over to the wastes and the Shan Shan Mountains over to the right-hand side. So this is what we've got so far. This is the Argonaut map atlas. And the size of this map is actually about 9.5 by 4.5 feet.
Yeah. So what you're looking at there, each of those pages is the size of a page of the book. Now, whether that page of the book is 8.5 by 11 or 10 by 12, I'm not giving too much away as I say that's quite a good representation of the actual size on the screen. Yeah, it could be.
Yes.
And as part of the Kickstarter, there are also the opportunity to buy big posters of all kinds of stuff.
And you can either have them with or without the hexes. This is showing you just one page, the atlas with 5-mile hexes on it.
Oh, a lot of people are confused about this. There's one version of the PDF atlas that's going to be distributed. It will have a toggleable layer of hexes. If you don't like hexes, you tick the "Don't show me hexes" button, and none of your maps ever have hexes until your child gets in and ticks the "Show me hexes" button, and then you discipline them and tick it off again. Some people, there's a long running comments that people haven't dropped this simple fact. But there you go, yeah. PDFs, they're built in layers, you can turn off the hexes very easily.
So
I like
in
hexes.
terms of the PDF, will there be a PDF which actually will have the incomplete map, as in the 10-foot by 5-foot map?
I'm not too sure about that. I believe that the map actually comes in 4 pull-out sections.
Well, the question is, electronically, is there any reason not to distribute the map in its fullest resolution?
Yes, it is.
Because people who have computers that could use it could use that.
That is actually the plan.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Argonaut Atlas will have the full-size map in PDF form. It's in AAA format, as Rick thinks it's quite a good joke, for those of you who know American road atlases. And so, yes, it will have that completely as you want it, yes.
Because I, for one, will actually print out the big map, as in the 10-foot by 5-foot map.
Could you print it out several times and give it to your friends? That's the occasion.
I have suggested to a couple of people they might want to actually try and use a projector onto a wall or something.
And then get an artist to paint. Or
When
college.
I looked, we don't actually have anywhere in our house where we would actually hang, where we have enough wall to hang it.
Eventually, I'll have a house. That's big. I know some friends who are printers, so they can print out things which are that big, so why not?
Awesome. Yeah, we like printing things.
This shot here we've actually pulled out and instead of zooming in. This gives you a well view from Simon Bray, who's illustrated some of the other continents which we'll be revisiting and going into detail as we hit the Kickstarter
So
stretch goal.
two different styles of mapping, if you like. If you like the detailed hex by hex contour lines, all vegetation shown versions, Colin is working on those for an increasing amount, a vastly increased percentage of Glorantha compared to what we originally thought we were covering. But we've also got these rather more, beautiful pictorial mountains look like pretty things maps. And again, these are in absurd resolution, and it's possible for us to blow up segments of these maps and have them look very, very beautiful. Not just for the guys, but of course for any future applications as well, which is nice.
And the reason for this is purely historical. The northern continent is much more detailed and already been mapped as opposed to the southern continent. So the southern continent is much more of an exploratory mapping system at the moment. But this will be resolved when this project starts to work.
Yeah,
in depth.
Instead of standing around talking, it's fan for convention. It's shameful. Jan Hospital, now there's a map that work.
Here again, this is not a sign.
And to be clear, the base map of that is a blow-up of the small segment of the previous slide. Back arrow. So that is this little bit at the bottom, blown up. with nothing else done to it apart from dotting on a few cities and place names. It's in that resolution throughout.
Okay, so...
Oh, God, mythic maps.
Mythic maps.
I think we're giving too much.
This is great.
Eric's produced a fantastic set of these maps. They're basically colour paintings that he's lovingly spent hours on, and it's a shame we don't have the full series to show you. There's also another set of mythological maps. Do you have those?
Oh, the Skylines.
The Skylines. Yeah, which is next. And so it's not just...
The mythological ones are quite lovely because they begin with the world in all kinds of perfect geometric shapes and everything neat and orderly. And then the storm gods come along and it starts to get screwed up. And then holes open up in reality and bad stuff comes out. And by the end of it, the world looks like it does today. But it's really quite lovely being able to page through that and see it all happening as it goes along.
Yeah, again, this is one of Greg's original maps, and this has been published before, but will be in the guide. This is the influences of the storm gods in central Genitella.
Essentially, you've got big radiuses drawn around sacred mountains. So the two most notable ones, the top of the world is the big circle that's kind of top centre, and Cerro Fin is the circle that's at the bottom right. And then within that, there's other mountains. So you can see Stormwater Mountain is the bottommost rightmost one. And these are, when you live this close to that mountain, that's where the home of the storm gods is for you. That's the sacred place for you. It's where the storm people's magic comes from. And there's something very cunning that Colin did recently, which is to overlay this with a map of the globe line.
Yes.
And you get some really interesting friction coming out of where the centres of the storm and centres of lunar power are rubbing up against each other.
And also, as part of the same conflict map, there are the dwarven centres of power, which have a completely opposite effect, and they act as magic dampening areas. So the nearer you live to a dwarf centre of power, the less likely it is your magic is to work. And that will all be on this one conflict map.
So, do you want to carry on this one?
Oh, well, yeah. God's About 17 years ago, my friend Dan, who was a lot shorter back then, started drawing something called the God's Wall for Greg. We began with some sort of cartoonish figures of here's a guy on a throne, here's the God standing forward in front of him. There had to be 100 of them. Their details kept changing, exactly how many of them were, where they sat, what they stood. So anyway, it's taken 17 years, but we now have a finished version of this huge Daraharpan monument to all of the gods recognised in Daraharpan mythology. So you've got Yel in his throne, sitting on top of his wife apparently, and you've got his brothers standing behind him, and his servants standing in front of him, and good gods of heaven on the top rank, and good gods of earth on the second rank, and kind of okay, I suppose we don't mind so much gods of earth on the third rank, but some have been scratched out of history, those aren't zebra gods. And then in the bottom you've got the naughty gods of the underworld. We have, I think, a few hours ago, we passed a stretch goal that means that every deity on this is going to be named and explained in the companion to the Guide to Glorantha.
That's correct.
So that was what we set at $120,000.
We've got a slide that shows us that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's in there now. But this is all very definitive iconography for the main Glorian culture. And because the Glorian culture of the Daraharpans are important and rich and traded for, it also permeates through some other parts of the world. So we've got a lovely vase picture by Corey Trego-Erdman up front. As if by magic, and you might think we're being unoriginal, but that picture of Yel sitting on his throne, bottom there, confronting Orland, who's holding his thunderbolts, is the same as on the God's Wall. And this is an older miniature. You can tell it's an older because the runes for the great earth goddess who's lying dead at the top are much bigger than anyone else's. And they're using that same imagery because we've got a lot more sense of how cultural diffusion works, in part by pulling all these maps together and saying, well, it's actually not that far from the Daraharpan Empire to the centre of Australia. So let's see where these cultural influences spread. Let's see who copies off who.
The God's Wall is very important because if anybody wants to see what their god looks like, you can just go and look at it.
Incidentally, the top, you've got an older lying in state. She's dead, the earth goddess. She's surrounded by her fierce guards and her snaky-haired grandmothers and people like that. And in the bottom, you're in the underworld. You've got the 7 light bringers all ants at the front holding a spiky front bulge, confronting Yelm, who's got a griffin standing behind him on his throne. You've got 6 other light bringers, and behind them is the ghost of Arnaldo, who's with all ants in the underworld, of course. They've all got runes scribbled overhead. It's a rather lovely piece, I like it. And there's various other vases we've got as well.
There's a lot,
and a dish. Not all vases, we have some around.
there's a lot of cultural influences in the book, and I think it's gone into a lot more detail, the way people dress, artifacts. It's just full of interesting snippets.
Sounds like
here we go.
Coins, yeah, that's about half of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got quite early on in the book where we've got pictures of both sides of, I think it's about 8 iconic Glorantha coins, Sartrite guilders, Rallian silver coins, the Luna, the Durham wheels. There's a troll bowl with a hole bitten through it. Some of these sketches and design notes for these have been up on the Moon Design website earlier. This is a first sight of some of the finished work, so it's obverse and reverse and a whole bunch of different things. The square one, of course, is from Esrolia. And I think that's a Luna at the top, right? Yes, one Luna coin, all those stars, big lights on it. Bastards.
Okay, there's also some fantastic artwork which you may have seen at the back. It's shot by Mike Perry.
Yeah.
Is this still up?
Oh yeah, this one, we did work on it. This is the Royal Court of Sessionella. That's King Wilmar the Fat, sitting there in his curly-toed slippers. Behind him, the guy who looks like the Ayatollah Khomeini holding up the serpent crown of Seshnek is Theobald the Wise, the tallest and therefore the most pious wizard in the whole of Sessionella, who looks rather like Christopher Lee, which is a good thing. There's been a bit of a rework on the West, and this has been quite traumatic for some of us. I mean, anyone who spent a few years of their life working on a westernized, Christianized version of alchemism has the right to feel gutted by the amount of translation that's happened. But the friction between having a medieval part of Glorantha, the kind of Christian with pointy-hatted wizards and churches everywhere, and the Bronze Age bits that we all liked elsewhere, was just too much to sustain. So as part of the rethink that's gone into this version of the guide, the west of Glorantha is a land of philosophy and a land of materialist thought and an aspiration towards human understanding. So it's more modelled on things like Hellenistic Greek philosophers and the Greco-Bactrian culture than it is on the medieval west of the European Dark Ages and indeed High Middle Ages. You won't be seeing guys wearing that Germanic full Gothic plate in Glorantha anymore, and I for one won't be missing them. We've got some quite exciting different things instead. But the West will feel different, and anyone who played in the How the West Was Won freeform with all those bishops, or who liked Trotsky's Book of Glorious Joy, the very lovely version of medieval Glorantha, as we always say, your Glorantha will vary. If that's the one you want to keep, you can. But the West in here has been done very self-consciously to be a compatible Bronze Age cultural milieu, so that there isn't that jarring disjoint you get where these people be hoplites and savages.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when we were putting the maps together, we suddenly realised, well, you know, we've seen separate maps of these areas before, but once you start putting them together, you realise there's a huge river running between the West and the Lunar Empire. It's really hard to justify having a completely different culture.
But people from the West came and conquered what is now the Lunar Empire, and could do it again.
So here's another shot.
That was my daughter's favourite picture of this whole set.
So it's probably worth just mentioning that there are eight major cultures being detailed in the book.
If you remember when you bought the orange box, it had details of primitive Sun Shen, nomadic Praxians, barbarian Orlanthi, and the civilized men of the West.
And all of the pictures for those cultures are actually up at the back, so please have a look if you need some guidance as to what you're looking at, please ask.
Yeah. So as well as those 4 cultures, we've also now got descriptions of the Dorani plains culture of Pamotella, the Fonritian slave-owning civilized, well, technically civilized culture of Pamotella. I think we have the Kralorellans, and with a bit of spillover to the East Isles. And the 8th, of course, is the glorious Pelorian culture, which is at the heartland of the Lunar Empire. And it's done in the same level of detail that we've had for years for the Orlanthi Praxians.
And the idea behind doing these 8 cultures is that regardless of what role-playing system you can use, you can just leap in and start to play in those areas.
Because the guide to Glorantha is completely systems-free, rules mechanics-free. There is nothing in it that is written with Hero Quest or Rune Quest or D20 or any other rule system in mind.
And likewise, the art is designed to give you a feel immediately for the cultures that you're playing in. We're trying to fit as much detail in as possible so you've got a rough idea of how it all works together.
Oh, I do love this.
This is actually doesn't show its full glory, but it's an A3 painting of the sky. There's not much more I can say about that. I mean, it's fantastically cool.
Not really.
And,
very, very deep.
I really hope it's going to be available as a separate print.
I'd just like to mention, this is the very least part of Eric Fennell's work on the sky.
I hope it's available as a separate print. It's actually A3. My concern is that it will be on a double-page spread of the book with a page like down the middle, which will be ruined exactly.
I'm sure we'll get the art out there.
I'm sure.
This is one of the, at the moment, 35 political maps that are going to be in the main book. There will be more, yes. As we hit more stretch goals, we'll be working on producing political maps of the...
So, each of these, unlike the previous books called Guides to Glorantha or whatever, is taken directly from the master map. The bits that aren't relevant are kind of greyed out so you can see that they're there. All of the cities marked on the map, there's little how many thousands of people live there in brackets after them. This map actually is, interestingly enough, is not one of the better ones to show off what we're doing, because all it tells you is the population and split between urban and rural. Whenever you look at one of these maps, if you're geeky like me, you start by adding up the number of people in each of the urban centres, and that will equal the urban total, because that's what it should do. When you get to more interesting parts of the world that are ethnically mixed, you can get some really fun stuff happening in some of the lunar heartland samples, where we'll show you how many of the population in this place are Dara Harpen versus how many are Pelorian versus how many are Orlanthy. And you'll get the urban and rural breakdowns of all of those, and they all get quite exciting. Oh, yes, magical views of Glorantha. We've got 5 different ways of looking at the same thing here. Well, 4 of it. The top left is how a Western Malchione wizard might appear with a kind of Kabbalistic diagram of runic interactions. Top centre is a theistic view with gods doing stuff to each other. Top right is an animistic spirit worshipper's view of the same stuff. And everything you're seeing is comparable directly between the pictures. So you've got a beast, you've got a nasty snake, you've got the earth goddess, you've got a picture of a huge woman thing. The fourth is a picture of the mundane world looking at a huge great honking mountain with the sun and moon hanging outside of it and so on and so forth. The fifth picture down below is horrible stuff going on down among the gods of the underworld at the same time. Now, of course, the underworld isn't the same as the real world, so that picture is just to remind you that underneath all these magical systems are the things of the trolls and hell and old knights. It's rather nice. I do like that as well. Got a lunch more about that.
This is one of the cultural pictures.
Yeah, this is one of the series of 8 cultural pictures. This is the West, as you can see. Basically, each picture has tries to portray a different aspect of the people. So here we've got a wizard and a men of all, who is a lady in this case.
She is.
Knights are no longer part of the West, but basically because we moved away from this medieval idea, and so they're now called men of all, even the ladies.
Yes, indeed they are. Indeed they are. And she is one of the Crestoli men of all, the people who bring all the functions of all the castes together into themselves to work as kind of moral exemplars for their people. So back in the old days of the Orange Box, she would have been depicted in full Gothic plate armour. So a bit different. The art direction for this was great fun because Jeff Richard, who writes up reams of notes on what he wants to see for each person, specified the Steve Ditko Doctor Strange hand gestures and gave some links to original source art. So that is how Western sources was meant to be.
So this is a series of, well, the plate numbers are going up as the stretch goals in the Kickstarter get advanced. But the same thing applies to the ones that apply to the previous one. We try and show different parts of the society, people in different attire, background. For instance, here on the back right, we've got a statue of the Red Goddess herself, almost living, as you can see. And in front, we have a priestess of the Red Goddess dancing one of her sacred dances.
Is that goddess sitting on top of a huge statue of a bear?
Here she is, yes. In the centre, I can't remember, my mind's gone blank.
Oh, that's a member of the Imperial Bodyguard from the Full Moon Corps. That silver mask she was wearing began as an expressionist silver mask, much like the ones in the film 300. But as she inhabits it for longer, it starts to take on aspects of her personality. So I think today she's a bit grumpy.
And we have a Dara Hapman priest, and I can't remember who the other one is.
Oh, that's a spy sorcerer.
Thank you very much.
Yes, from the major class Lunar College of Magic. I'm told that Whisk is carrying a fly swat for whisking away his enemies. Magic. So, yeah, we're carrying on developing more of these. They're consciously modelled on the Osprey Men at Arms series, so every picture is going to be 3 or 4 rather iconic, rather beautifully detailed people standing around interacting. There'll be a story to them, and there'll also be quite comprehensive notes explaining what's going on. I can lag for the ones up front.
We encourage you to go and have a look at the Kickstarter website itself for the book, which, well, to be honest, the book is funded. That's the bottom line.
The book was funded on the first day.
Yeah, funded on the first day, basically. And now it's all about stretch goals. The more money that comes in, the more detailed Glorantha will be for you. And as you can see, this morning I think we were already up to $120,000.
It was $123,000 a few minutes ago, but I'll just check.
Right. So if you want to get involved and you want to see this product even better, we encourage you to please pledge some money towards it. You can start at $1, or you can go up to the insane $3,000 level. There still are some places left. Some of the stretch goals, some of the amounts you can pledge will give you access to some of Greg's older works that have never been published. There is a 15-volume series of Greg's old notebooks, basically, that have been bound together, new covers and stuff. Most of this stuff is historical and not necessarily useful to the state of play nowadays.
I would not recommend the gamify it.
Yeah, that's it. But if you're a collector,
it's a very rich game. We want
these things do exist, and we're making this available.
It's kind of like Christopher Tolkien's wastepaper basket collections for the Glorantha crowd.
But that not discourage you from buying into it.
Oh no! I say that with respect.
So these are some of the things that have already happened from stretch goals. So this was all due to the stretch goal being reached.
And this is quite a nice one because I didn't even know it was coming. This is White Shirt Day in Talisker. And as you can see here, they are in the background handing out the white shirts.
A happy lunar politician in the centre, very pleased because he's converted the whole population of Talisker to lunar way. And there's all these all-out being handed white shirts, thinking, these lunars are crazy. And behind him, that's a whole heap of statues and idols of the gods of the lunar way, bristling with third eyes and nasty hooked minds.
Because that's the kind of thing that you get the poor soldiers to cart along with.
That's right, that's right. It's a stepping stone to political glory, that's why he's looking a bit smug. He's not sure what all laughing about.
So this is what I'm working on at the moment, which is the completion of the east coast of Glorantha.
Has that map of Pent now got those details as the known?
Yeah, that Pent I've still got to sort out.
Not much.
You can see that there's lots more happening in the waste than previously. This is where we found the third overlay for Greg's maps, which gave us all different grazelands and things, which was quite interesting. So we've been adding those, and of course, we're Simon Chow. We're actually working out where the 7 bridges are.
Yeah, that was bizarre, wasn't it? Because back when the orange box came out, it described the 7 magical bridges, vast suspension bridges stretching from the mainland to the island. And didn't put any of them on the map. So we're going to fix that.
The other thing is, as I said earlier, it's somewhat of an archaeological dig to find this information. You might have remembered on the earlier maps that the map only actually went up to the Shan Shan Mountains. Greg never actually drew the two things together. So Clarabella was off floating on its own until Colin and Simon basically glued it on. So this is actually quite a new thing to see the whole of the Northern Continent together.
stretch goals still to go. I think we nearly hit the 125k.
Yeah, but that's a few hours.
Yeah, that's probably a couple of months' work for me. So yeah, there's plenty.
They had a bunch more early this morning, by the way. Now stretched up to about 145k. I think realistically they are going to hit all of those.
Okay.
You know, I'm not saying it's merely as some kind of maniacal booster. The amount of interest and enthusiasm in this project is infectious. It's probably the other thing that is going to happen. At some point, they're going to announce how much it will cost to upgrade your book from a standard hardcover to a luxury faux leather-bound hardcover, or how much more for a genuine deluxe leather-bound hardcover. When they do that, certain people who will remain members will be upgrading, and that'll be an immediate fund injection from people who are already backing this to the hilt. So, nice to have.
I think the only other thing we've got here, before we sort of throw out into questions, is just what's coming up from Moon Design. Yeah, the main three books that have been worked on, the one Harrick Saga by richest, and the Glorantha Bestiary by Big Nash. You may know that those are the guys who are looking after RuneQuest these days. And also Coming Storm by Ian Cooper. Some details.
I'll give you a bit more. As you can imagine, RuneQuest 6 has done quite well for itself, and so sadly it's somewhat stalled Harrick Saga. So Loz will be getting back on that soon. The Glorantha Bestiary is a second-age document written by some mad god learner.
With commentary from somebody who doesn't believe a word it says.
Precisely. There's a couple of handouts at the back, and feel free to take with you. There's a section on the Yellow Elves to give you an example of how that actually works. It's done along the same format as Peterson's Guide to...
It was Peterson's Guide to the Cthulhu mythos,
Yeah.
and the ones in the Dreamlands is gorgeous.
That's right. And they'll be done in the same style, and the art will be commissioned in the same style as well. I think that's going to be beautiful. As for The Coming Storm, this is another starter book, and it's basically another starter book because lots and lots of stuff in Hero Wars happens in starter. You may want to play somewhere else, but this just continues on the theme. And basically it starts off and follows through the starter campaign through the Hero Wars on a tribal and clan level to give you some idea of how the Hero Wars actually works. One of the main things it has is it has one of the most epic hero quests that will be published, which is how your players actually go off and form one of the first magical units for Argrath, the 11 Lights. So the counters that appear in the original Dragon Pass board game, you can actually form one of those counters yourself.
But one of the critical learnings in this iteration of Glorantha Publishing is that in The Coming Storm, heroic deeds will be done by the players who will be in the driving seat. This will not be scenarios where you watch the GM's favourite NPC solve things the way it's supposed to be done. That's not going to be happening. I'm quite pleased about that.
There's also a couple of other things coming up. Worm's Footnotes is resumed printing. Issue 17 is being put together as we speak as well.
I'll do issue 16 first.
Oh, we're going to do issue 16 first, that's right, sorry. Not up and up at the moment, you see. And that will be a Lunar Empire special with the history of the Lunar Empire, more map stuff, and lots of bits and pieces that aren't in the guide in a much more detailed level. There are other new design projects also simmering away in the background, so it's not all just Kickstarter guide. There is, as we say, other projects that will be coming along, hopefully maturing next year as well.
But at the moment, the guide to Glorantha is what everyone's working on. It's kind of a dream project. This is our chance to define Glorantha in a book that is as beautiful as we can make it. It won't be coming out in crappy little grey pamphlets with paper covers and art inside drawn by people who really shouldn't have been allowed to. It will be as close to a single reference volume as we can get it. The only thing constraining that at the moment is space. They're making the guide as big as it is possible to print and ship in the United States, and unfortunately it needs to be bigger. So that's why there is a separate atlas, and that's why there is a separate companion. They're looking into ways of making that as efficient as we can, but while the Kickstarter is still in progress and goals are still being attained, the final shape of it, how many copies there are going to be, how much they can fund the print run, is as yet undetermined. But It's going to be gorgeous. Was anyone out here a subscriber to the Kickstarter already? And have you obtained the manuscript? Have you subscribed at the, I think it's the Rune Lord level, and got the draft manuscript?
Yes.
And would you like to say anything about it as a completely independent punter? We haven't warned you up.
There's a lot of it.
One of the great things about getting the manuscript out into the hands of the people who want to read it is that we have yet another level of error trapping. And although this has been through myself and Nick, another gentleman called Charles, it's that people are now pulling up things that people have completely,
It's a big, complicated book.
Yeah.
It's so delightful that when our fellow fans get their hands on it, they're saying, "Oh, you didn't put a full stop there."
Yeah, and we encourage people, if they find mistakes, please let us know, because we can make this the best guide possible.
On that happy note,
We have, what, 14 minutes left?
I think we do.
We do. Ask away.
And it doesn't have to be about the guide. And moon design questions, we can even, on an amateur and non-attributable version, we can answer room quest questions. We could probably even answer D&D questions. They are going to receive as much specification as other lands. The Blank Lands was an experiment that really is felt not to have worked well, and leaving them in there just creates a problem when you're looking at an organic world where all the bits come together. And in fact, what I've seen is that people are likely to find their own blank corners of the map where not much has been done, or find a country that's in an interesting place that's only detailed in one paragraph of text in the most definitive book about Glorantha ever, and make that their own. So, yeah, places like the Kingdom of Garsting is going to be described. It's not just going to say, this is a blank land, it'll tell you a bit about it.
There is also places like Char, which are still under the ban.
Yeah, but we are giving the data out which child emerges from the ban,
Yes.
and a fair number of hints as to what's under there. And we're not going to like it. Which is sad.
Yeah, will the books, will we be better like bound?
Better than what?
Well, because in the book, the Pavis, what was it? Griffin Mountain.
The Glorantha Classics.
Yeah, the Vermoon design. It started to come apart.
That was the softback, yes.
Yeah, softback. Yeah.
That time has gone on. One of the problems is with such a large book, binding is actually the issue, and that's what the paging is all about. And Rick is dedicated to actually learning from his previous stuff and getting stuff much better done. I think we'll all agree that nobody wants a book that's going to have a cover that warps and the page falls out.
Yeah.
And that's very clearly not one of our stretch goals.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
200,000 will fall apart.
I think I can specify that Rick has said it's going to be a sewn hardback.
Yeah.
Which is, I understand, the gold standard. As for the warping covers, there's only one major Glorantha publisher that has ever made a specialty of warping covers and hardbacks, so we don't talk about that. No, I wasn't going to mention mine. Nor did I. It's almost an anagram of moon design, but not quite.
Second question. Will there be more about the Koalawela?
Yes. That stretch goal has just been reached.
Ah, good.
There will be detailed maps of Koalawela down to the small city level. There will be a gazetteer. Has that one also been reached? There is a stretch goal to provide details of every small city on the map, or every small city and other landmark on the map in Koalawela and Teshnos. I think it has been achieved. If it hasn't already, then it's one of the next ones. It has been achieved. One of the upcoming stretch goals, which I believe will be attained, and I can't see it not being hit, is to provide more artwork illustrating Koalawela. And when you do the artwork, the way we're doing it, that also gets you a description of what it is that you're
That's all
seeing.
been hit there.
That's been hit too?
Yes.
Koalawela art, Koalawela gazetteer, Koalawela maps, and more detail in the chapter on Koalawela and on the East Isles and on Teshnos than there was in the orange box equivalents, where there was an orange box equivalent, or in the old missing land supplement. So yeah, more Koalawela than ever.
We also have at the back some of the culture pictures where we've got the male and female. We've got some from the East.
Well, yeah, we mentioned Calorella as one of the 8 fully retail cultures. We have pictures from Calorella mythology. We have a picture of typical Calorellans. We have just commissioned Mike Perry art showing Bodunia, the Dragon Emperor, and his bodyguards performing a ritual. There's a fair amount of Calorella. It's not just going to be one picture of a guy in a judo outfit and centipede style pose.
And it's also
not that I'm knocking any previous publications, which have to work within different constraints.
It's also worth remembering that these box sets came out a long time ago. We actually have a whole generation of gamers who aren't here.
Tragically, they aren't here today.
This is one. Who've never had access to this out-of-print material. And I don't know about you, but my old orange box fell to pieces a long time ago because it was so badly produced.
It was shameful.
And the artwork wasn't good. So this is all about sort of 20 years of evolution in gaming, about what people want to see, not about what they're willing to put up with. I think I'm not alone here in saying that we all want to see quality writing, quality maps, quality information, quality art.
Can I be a contrarian with you here?
Okay.
The reason I got so heavily into writing for and developing Glorantha in the early 90s was because the orange box was so shit. If it hadn't left such huge holes in the detailing and description of the world, such leaps of logic necessary to make it all fit together, such lacunae in history and cultures and everything, I might not have got into Glorantha. So I'm very grateful that the orange box was such a slipshod, lacking piece of work. But that doesn't mean I want any competition, so we're going to do it really well this year. But I'm very sincere about that. I wouldn't have got so heavily into Glorantha if there wasn't so much that needed to be fixed and explained and made to work. So I owe that box a lot. More questions?
Well, if there aren't any more questions, what I think we'd like to do is to invite everybody to come up and have a look at all the pictures at the back. If you've got any questions, we will mingle for the next just 8 minutes and hope to answer any questions you've got. If you haven't had a look at Kickstarter, there's a leaflet up there with web details on it, and there's also a couple of little handouts with the other publications which are in the pipeline. We can also answer any other questions.
Absolutely. Okay, mic's going off. Oh, we've got 8 minutes, and then Mr. Livingston's security detail will be clearing the quarters. So,
thank you all very much.
Thank you.
That was Glorantha. What do you make of it?
It's amazing how detailed it is, going past 20 odd years from when I first started role-playing with RuneQuest, and all the Glorantha details. And what was really interesting about the talk was the almost archaeological way in which they've been uncovering layer after layer of Stafford kind of creation.
It's quite interesting. I mean, I do appreciate an awful lot how extremely passionate they actually are about the subject and how they are very, 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 very much into it. But as a non-Gloranthan myself, I find the whole thing extremely overwhelming. I mean, I would not have a clue where to start.
Well, as a member of the Lunar Empire, I was exposed to it in the very early days. But what's interesting is they've become platform neutral now. And the issue is, have they done that by just kind of stripping out stats, which makes it not RuneQuest? Or have they done it in a way that is where the spirit of the idea of Glorantha can be implemented in a variety of different role-playing settings? And I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question. But it's, I mean, judging from the audience that we're watching today, there was a kind of very kind of zealot, diehard kind of Gloranthan feel to the audience, almost like seeing people like at a World of Warcraft conference.
Yeah, it's I found that an awful lot. Very. I'm not going to say closed kind of environment, but it does feel that it's attracting the kind of people that's been into it for the last 30 years.
Yes, I think that, I mean, we often talk about accessibility, don't we? I mean, having such a rich kind of pageantry of history and gods and everything, you almost want there to be a kind of a fantasy set of books that would get people interested, or even kind of start a campaign, something to entice a new audience.
Yeah.
It seems to me that although it's been extremely successful on Kickstarter, it's a real kind of diminishing audience, and gradually as people get older and older and older, it becomes that much more hardcore. And it's great to see the fandom and the affection people have for it. Certainly I feel a lot of affection for it, but it was also very human centric, and some of the other Staffords, the trolls and the dwarves and the other races don't seem to, in this presentation at least, have been really represented as well as they should have been.
True, and I wonder if that's where the setting is going to. They also spoke an awful lot about Kickstarter. Do you get the feeling that that's how they're going to go from now on?
It was a little bit self-congratulatory to my mind, and maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but it was like, and we met this goal and we met this stretch goal and we're going to do this now, and you think that's great, but really at a venue like Dragonmeet for the seminar, it shouldn't have just been a live version of a status update on Kickstarter, and it did feel like it was tending towards that a little bit more than being informative and discussing about the world of Glorantha, which is what I was expecting it to be.
Yes, I think, I mean, I can understand they being very, very proud of the Kickstarter with very good reason. They've raised, I mean, still quite a few days to go. They have over $120,000 in the kitty at the moment, which is absolutely brilliant. But I wonder how much it's going to help them to just concentrate on that Kickstarter alone. That there are some plans for what's going to happen in the future, but there were no particular plans or insight as to how they're going to make those plans happen.
Yeah, I think it was reaping nostalgia, and whether that's sustainable in the long term, I don't know.
Well, we shall bid them the best of luck.